Hi, Karen. I hope you're doing well. I hope you've been staying safe and healthy. Thanks again for reaching out to Wonderful Machine and for sharing your website with us. Today, I'll be going through your assessment and my notes on the presentation of your current website. Our goal is to identify the strengths and weaknesses of your presentation and provide specific feedback on how you can refine it moving forward. At first glance, what stood out to me was your voice. You have such intimate images, as you had mentioned in your questionnaire, that really come from the heart. Like the first three images here feel like they're such tender moments of care, community, and connection. And I saw that pretty consistently and prominently throughout your work. It's very clear that you're passionate about your work and you're passionate about photography and telling stories, which definitely come out through your images. What I also noticed is that you're showing such a variety of work that it was also hard to get a sense of the work that you like to do and want to continue doing. I see that there are images of music, travel, reportage, landscapes, that it's a little hard to get a sense of who you are as a photographer. And I think that your biggest area of opportunity is to really narrow down on showing the work that you want to continue doing and will attract the clients that you want to reach as soon as visitors land on your website. So rather than a general overview of these images that disconnect from each other, I would recommend directing straight to the work that would be most relevant to your dream clients. So I know that your work is very narrative driven, so I would recommend showing your stories first, especially since clients like Smithsonian Magazine, Garden and Gun, and Humane Society Magazine, and even nonprofits are looking to see how photographers tell stories. And I know that I definitely see them in your blog. And I thought it was interesting to see that you were showing majority of your projects on your blog rather than your galleries. I think that blogs can be really hard to keep up for most photographers, and it can potentially hurt photographers' SEOs if they aren't keeping up with it regularly. So it's great to see that you have been able to update this pretty frequently, so I think you're doing a great job in that. So this was interesting to see, and I think that rather than keeping your projects in your blog section, you can bring these stories out into your main galleries while keeping this blog and keeping the stories, like the written narratives here. Whether you want to write about the behind the scenes or your reflections or your thoughts on the project, I think that's definitely fine in your blog, but I would really recommend bringing your main projects, like the actual images, into your main galleries. I think what also can be a missed opportunity by having so much of your content in your blog is that clients may miss seeing this work. I'm not sure how many clients really go to a photographer's blog to see their work, and I'd be interested to see your analytics and see what's working and how people and visitors navigate through your website. But I would say that if you move your strongest stories from this section into your galleries, that you may have a better chance of attracting the clients that you want to reach. Another concern that I had while I was going through your blog is that even if I were to head to the blog to see your stories, it is also hard to navigate through this section and find the work that I'd be looking for. You have to kind of scroll down past a lot of text and images and stories that may be relevant, stories that may not be relevant, for me to find work like this that's really interesting that I would want to learn more about, or the work that you've been doing during quarantine, like this. I feel like your stories are really getting lost within your pages. And again, I really think that, if you want to dedicate having a blog, I think it would really help with your SEO. And I think, as you mentioned in your questionnaire, that you've been finding a lot of success with this, so I wouldn't want you to remove it necessarily. And I would encourage for you to continue posting. But I would also recommend kind of refining the design of this page. It's overall simple, and I think generally in regards to your navigation template, I think it's definitely nice that you have a simpler template so that we can just kind of focus on the content. But there are a lot of text elements that can be overwhelming and hard to, as I mentioned, navigate through. So the text on the left here about being a photo, or this blog being a photo journal, and this navigation bar here, and then seeing the blog post on the right. I'm not exactly sure what information is most important to look at. So I would probably just recommend taking the text out, as it's not really providing much more information about the blog and can distract visitors from just focusing on the context of your posts. And then with this navigation, it suddenly feels like there's multiple ways to navigate through your website. That again, it just starts feeling overwhelming. I don't really know where to start or what I'm clicking into, nor do I know if this work is really going to be relevant to me. So I would just recommend simplifying the blog with just having your posts all just filling the page. And then as we go down, and it can be, if we go back to blog for a really quick second, this can also get really long. Is it possible we can maybe shorten the page? I haven't really fooled around with blogs on Squarespace too much, but is it possible to limit maybe the number of posts that are on each page so you can keep going through? Because it takes a while for me to get towards the bottom of the page where you also have some pretty important information like your phone number and your social media links and to sign up for your blog. So this can get lost since this page is so long, that I would recommend, fooling around with it if you can just kind of limit it, or maybe limit the post so that at a certain word count or a certain line, you can just click read more and it goes to the longer version of the post. I'm not sure if that's a possibility, but again, you would probably have to fool around with it a little bit more. And then as we're looking at this, I noticed that this is padded all the way to right here. That's probably because the navigation box up top pushed all the elements to the right here, including the subscription and the social media links in the bottom. You probably have to create I think it's just another box to put this into that expands out and fills out the page. And I think with those refinements, I think your blog would just look just a bit cleaner. That would be easy for any visitors who want to go through and read through your reflections, that they can navigate through this page. And so I'll continue going into your galleries. And similarly here with photojournalism, I will say about the portfolio page, there's a mix of tear sheets and reportage and a picture of Obama with next to this image of a disabled boy in front of a burning house. It starts to just feel really disconnected, and I'm not really understanding, what's the story, what story you're trying to tell, what work you're really interested in doing. So again, I would just really focus on telling your stories because your work is just so narrative driven. If you wanted to show tear sheets, then you can create a separate tear sheet section in your navigation where you can have, the covers that you shot, again, which is great to see, as long as they're your most recent tear sheets from the past couple of years. And then I'll continue into travel. I think you have some nice moments here. Again, I think that's just your forte, being able to capture intimate, authentic moments. This is a really nice, there's a really nice color palette here, and I like the textures that's coming from this boy that's walking across the water. It's simple, but I think it's beautiful in and of itself. There are a couple, images like this that stand out. And you have some nice landscapes like this, and moments like this. But something that I noticed as I was going through the travel gallery is that these are more of moments that you captured while traveling versus really telling a story about a culture, people, a place. And really travel clients are looking again for those stories. I think here is a really nice image that is starting to tell that story. I don't know if it's from the same story like this, but if you were to pair these together, I think clients would really enjoy seeing that. Whether it's a tourism board or maybe it's a publication, like maybe Southern Living wants to feature a restaurant from Memphis, or local spots that bring in tourists or that is unique. Again, travel clients are looking for those kinds of stories, and that is what will attract clients. And then we're going to portraiture. Again, I think you have some nice images here. One that really stood out to me was this one here. I think is just such a beautiful moment. I like her expression. I like the lighting. It's soft. I kind of have a warm feeling when I'm looking at this image. But overall, again, it's just, rather than images that are telling me a story or tell me more about the people in this picture, it feels more like a people gallery that's a collection of, just people in the image, like a graduation picture, maybe a musician. And we're also seeing a couple images that we've already seen in previous galleries, which isn't very encouraging to clients, if they're seeing images repetitively or repeatedly as they go through your site. We're not seeing anything too different from what we already saw in your previous galleries. Love to see more images like this woman, where either it's like kind of this sentiment moment, or where you're starting to kind of give us more personality, and telling us more about who this person is. And I remember you mentioning in your questionnaire that, it's not particularly something that you really like to do. So I think it would be okay if you remove this gallery from your portfolio, or if you were to put it in an orphan link. I also like this image too. I kind of like her expression and the pipe in her mouth. It's like kind of giving us that personality and telling us more about who this subject is. But if you wanted to do more portraiture, then I would say to put together a selection of 25 to 30 of your strongest images, like the ones that I've been talking about, and continuing and shooting more portraiture and really fleshing out this gallery with your strongest work. Something I also noticed is that you add quotes in as an image for your website, and I think I would agree with you as again, as you mentioned in your questionnaire, whether adding the quotes really support your portfolio or not. And I usually would recommend against them. Sorry, not quotes, but captions. I think that they can be valuable if the story really needs more information in text, but I also feel like you have a blog, so that kind of gives them more information. And I really think it's stronger if you can let your stories speak for themselves by having a strong edit. And again, just honing in on the work that you want to continue doing. So I think that's gonna stand out to clients more than the quotes or the captions. So I would recommend removing these unless you find that they are valuable for your work. Then I'm going to go into photojournalism projects, and I would repeat the same thing that I had mentioned in photojournalism and portfolio. Again, it's just really just go straight into your stories. I think it can be confusing to navigate if we're going back and forth between your blog and another gallery on your website. I mean, I think it's great that you have this click into a new tab. But again, in terms of navigation, if I haven't been to the blog before, then it's confusing because I'm not really sure where I am now, and that can be a navigational issue. But if I have been to this section of the site, then I'm also going to be wondering why I'm back at that section of the site. So again, you just really want your navigation to be as streamlined as possible. This helps with SEO, but I think it can also hurt the experience of going through your website and can be confusing for visitors. Speaking of navigation, I want to talk about your navigation menu. I see photographers often describe sections or categories of their work as maybe portfolio and galleries, and I think that can actually work against them. It just can be confusing for clients because it's not really calling out to what is in that gallery. What's the difference between portfolio and galleries, and then photojournalism and photojournalism projects. So ways that you can refine your navigation and make it more streamlined is, again, if you just had a section for stories and using this drop down menu to just go straight into stories that you think would be relevant for potential clients. So maybe you have ongoing projects, and then maybe you have some of your recent projects like Dr. Bob's Brain, or I'm just going to go through some of these stories here, or maybe this story that talks about COVID and faith and love. I think that's pretty interesting to see, and shows that what you're passionate about. So directing straight into a gallery like this with a story in the navigational menu like this, I think again would just work very well. In this way, as soon as clients click into or navigate through this, then they know what they can expect when they click into these projects. And then maybe you can also have, if you want, because I know you mentioned that you want to do more travel work, then you can have a separate section in your navigation menu. So imagine if there was stories and then travel, then you can go into another drop down menu that has your travel stories here, and then you can have your blog. Next, I'll go into your about section. I think it's great to know more about you on your page. You have quite a bit of information here. I love your headshot. Again, brings some more of that personality of who you are as a photographer, which is really great to see. And if we go into in print, we can see where you've been published, which is awesome. And then we also have some information about some rewards that you've received, and again, more information about where you've been published. All that is really great. I would recommend really organizing all this information into one page and organizing all this information in a way that's easier to digest. I think you have lots of information, like the recommendations, the quotes and phrases that fill the page, and I feel like you have 2 bios that I think some of the more important information gets lost, like your client list, like where we can reach you. I would recommend really consolidating the bios into one really great bio, and I think it's already in a pretty great spot. Just kind of consolidating the information. I would probably recommend removing the recommendations. It feels kind of salesy, and I think more clients would be interested in where you've been published, so you can probably have a client list beneath your headshot, and also your awards or honors beneath that. Then if there's anything else that you would like to link to, like maybe your video portfolio or your stock photography, you can hyperlink that. But you can also probably just link your video portfolio, your Vimeo, in your navigation bar and hyperlink that to an external link, and same thing with the photo shelter. Again, just to kind of refine, organize, and streamline information. And then with your philosophy page, again, I think because you've already provided so much information about who you are as a photographer and showing your client list as part of your experience as a photographer, that adding what feels like an artist statement or maybe a sales pitch just kind of feels unnecessary. So I would recommend removing this page. I did have some other thoughts on your bio page here. Sorry to go back again, but some other ways I think you can clean up this page is to also remove, I don't think I mentioned this before, removed Karen Pulfer Focht here again, since it appears here again, even though you have your logo at the top of your page. And then also removing this quote again is adding more information or adding more text to look at, but that's not providing much more information than what we're already seeing. So I would recommend removing this, or maybe moving, if you really feel strongly about this quote, to move this towards the bottom rather than the top, and really just call attention more to the information that would be most relevant to clients, which would be, as I mentioned, your bio and the client list, and your contact information and awards and honors, and information like that. Next, we have your store. I know that you want to sell more of your travel work, and I'm not sure if you mean with prints, but I think this is probably a good start. I'm wondering if would be more valuable to have an external store, like a Shopify, or just a separate, easier to navigate page where visitors can buy your prints, add it to a shopping cart, rather than putting in a mail order. Again, just to organize the page and make it easier to shop around, and make it easier for visitors to buy your work. But I think that overall this page is fine. Contact, I see that you provide a contact form. It's great to see that you also added your location too. I think you added that in your bio, yes, so that's perfect. Because you add your contact information here, I don't think that the contact form is necessary, and I would actually recommend that you put all this information on your contact page so that it's not distracting as visitors are viewing your images. I know that you've received some feedback that people want it, always prominent on your site, so maybe it can also live in the footer, but personally I would say that this information can be distracting. Well, at least the contact information, I think it's great to see photojournalist Memphis, Tennessee. Maybe that can live in a word mark underneath Karen Pulfer Focht, or somewhere integrated near your logo, so that's always prominent. But I think that putting your phone number and your email on your contact page and hyperlinking it, or even just putting it in your about page would make this look cleaner. Again, and also clients like having the direct contact info instead of a form. It feels more personal, and they know where their emails are going. And then I also want to talk about some last few details. At your footer, you add a form to subscribe to your blog, and I think that's a nice addition. And I'm wondering, does this also mean that they sign up for newsletters or to receive emailers? And I think that would be more efficient for your marketing, rather than just subscribing to your blog, rather than subscribing to your blog, and especially because you update it pretty frequently. I think most clients would actually be interested in maybe signing up for a quarterly newsletter or quarterly emailer where they just get an update once every 4 months on your newest work and your strongest work that would be more relevant to them, rather than receiving a notification every time you post up a blog. You can kind of be more curated in your marketing by saying, okay, this is the work I've been working on for the past 4 months, and a little blurb about what it's about, and then sending that to contacts that would want to see that work. Again, I think that would be more efficient. You can say like subscribe to stay updated. So just some thoughts on that. And while we're also here, I wanted to point out that you also include your phone number in your footer, and I would recommend just keeping all your contact information in one place. If you were to put it in your about or contact page, I would recommend just kind of having all of that information in one place rather than in different places. Again, you really want to keep the information on your site organized, and clients may miss this information if they don't reach the bottom of the page. So I don't think your phone number would be beneficial here. With your social media links, there's just kind of a lot of information here. There are two Instagrams that lead to Instagram icons that lead to the same Instagram, and that might just have been something you had quickly overlooked, didn't notice as you were putting on your website. I just wanted to call attention to it. It's really not distracting, but it can be confusing. You also add in like Tumblr and Pinterest, and I'm not sure how many clients are really looking to Tumblr and Pinterest for updated work, but I think the Vimeo link is valuable. If you move the Vimeo link to your navigation bar, you can probably remove the icon, but I would recommend LinkedIn and Instagram, especially Twitter, if you really keep that up. But if not, I would recommend, if it's not really relevant, you can remove that. And same with Facebook, but LinkedIn and Instagram are going to be the most important for marketing and for clients to find you. And you can also probably put this information in your about or contact page and hyperlink that. But I think it's fine as in the footer, as long as it doesn't get lost on your page. And I'll quickly talk about your Instagram. I think it's great that you stay engaged, and I think it's great that you keep it updated. I noticed that you keep it private, probably because of what happened a couple months ago with that copyright issue. And I think that's probably a good move for now. I definitely understand the move there. I think it can be a potential missed opportunity, as I know that clients look for photographers on Instagram, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. And really, I think that your main focus for your website right now is to, as I've been mentioning, just really focus in on the work that you want to continue doing. Show off your stories, show the work that the stories that you want to continue telling. I know that you're very passionate about really just doing the work that you love, and I think that's going to be very important, and I think that will stand out to clients, especially, you want your clients to hire you for your voice and your passion rather than just something that you can do. So I think that will work to your advantage, and really just directing straight to those stories, and bringing out to the forefront. And sorry, one last note that I think I had forgotten to mention is, you have this copyright, the copyright or your website and images. I think that I understand why you probably do that, but I think it can be very distracting for clients, especially if your images are copyrighted. I can't even right click and save these images. I think it can be unnecessary, and especially if your images are copyrighted, then you don't really have to worry about, or I would like to think that you wouldn't have to worry about it if there's a copyright issue. I don't see a lot of professional photographers adding the copyright, so it can present you as a hobbyist or an amateur, rather than a professional photographer. And I know that's definitely not the case. I know that you're very experienced, so I would recommend removing the text in your images and just letting your images speak for themselves. Again, just letting your stories speak for themselves. And that is all. Thanks again, Karen, for reaching out to Wonderful Machine and for sharing your work. I think you are off to a great start here. It's great to see, the work that you're very passionate about. And I think just by, again, bringing those stories to light, you can you'll be at a better place to reach and attract the clients that you want to reach. If you would like to work with Wonderful Machine to help you put this all together, or even put together a new template or website, we'd be happy to help. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to Brian. I will be in touch to talk about the assessment and get your thoughts on on the assessment and ask any questions, answer any questions. But we'd be happy to help in any way with your website and helping you reach dream clients. Thanks again, Karen. Talk to you soon.